Hi, welcome to Chapter 8. If you haven't already, click on Chapters 1 through 7 so you're all caught up. So, continuing our discussion from Chapter 7, another film that works to control fear is The Breadwinner, directed by Nora Twomey and released in 2017. And this time it used a different terror management strategy. The title refers to our protagonist, 11-year-old Parvana, who is forced by circumstances to become the breadwinner for her family in a war-torn Taliban-era village in Afghanistan. This film was incredibly intense, and actually took watching it twice through to truly capture its entire content. Parvana is in a constant state of terror from the world around her, and she uses stories to aid in calming herself. She's learned this concept from her father, who educates her in secret, despite it being illegal to do so. He tells her, "Stories remain in our hearts, even when all else is gone. When I was young, Parvana, I knew what peace felt like, here in this city. Children went to school, women went to university. All the empires forgot about us, for a while at least. Everything changes, Parvana. Stories remind us of that." Throughout the film, Parvana tells herself, and those around her, the story of a young boy living in the shadow of the Hindu Kush Mountains, and his battle with the Elephant King and the King's Jaguars. She names the boy after her deceased brother, Suleiman, who died in a previous war, but she will not disclose to the audience, or anyone else, how exactly he died. In the story, to defeat the Elephant King, Suleiman needs 3 things: something that shines, something that ensnares, and something that soothes. He uses a mirror to blind the jaguars and a net to ensnare them. He uses the story of how he died to soothe the Elephant King into a tranquil state. He says, "My name is Suleiman. My mother is a writer. My father is a teacher. And my sisters always fight each other. One day, I found a toy on the street. I picked it up. It exploded. I don't remember what happened after that, because it was the end." He repeats this until the Elephant King meets him, and Suleiman places a single hand upon the king's forehead. The voice of what must have been the real Suleiman begins to repeat the story, overlaying the words from the voice of the boy in Parvana's mind. Buried within this story is a reality that Parvana turns into a story to help manage her grief and her own fear of the world around her. In her mind, Suleiman is a hero, alive and well, capable of soothing an enemy with truth and coming home to celebrate such an occasion. The music in this part of the film only works to increase the tension and anxiety felt by Parvana and the audience alike. The dramatic tension is created by a relentless and incessant brigade of 16th notes in the strings. Not necessarily a melody, this is called an ostinato in musical terms. It's set low in the range of the strings, so it doesn't stick out. It just builds anxiety. Every so often there is a brief interjection of lyrical strings, but it always returns to that relentless 16th note pattern. The dynamics are particularly interesting, because they never really get loud, only more and more insistent. The speed of these notes evokes either a running or breathlessness, adding to the tension of the scene. It is only when the Elephant King is soothed that the music becomes lyrical, while still maintaining that dark and low sound with a viola. The Breadwinner is incredibly graphic, and perhaps a tad traumatic for the viewer, given its intensity and the knowledge that it's based on real and recent events. But Parvana gives us hope. She ends this film with this: "Raise your words, not your voice. It is rain that makes the flowers grow, not thunder." This is just such a beautiful message to leave us with. A proverbial Pandora's box. She helps us control our terror by giving us this hope, while using stories to control her own. The Breadwinner depicts the profound effect that storytelling has on our terror management. We tell ourselves stories because of the narrative construction that we place on reality. Humans are narrative creatures. We become the stories that we tell ourselves, then believe them as the truth. Such stories create a world that is defended because it upholds our identity. So let's put this in real-world context. When one goes to therapy, we undergo what's called narrative therapy. We externalize these stories so that self-healing resources inherent in the soul can speak to us its neglected longings and make us whole. Essentially meaning, we reverse the process and recognize that we ourselves have become our stories. This is based in our evolution. Our ancestors found that they could best persuade others by first persuading themselves. A good story is convincing when it's believable. Once believed, it becomes the truth for the listener and the teller alike. It also has the advantage of being able to be fixed in the psyche and recalled on command. There are 3 modes of listening in storytelling: listening to your own stories, listening to the stories of others, and something called soul listening, which is essentially listening to something at the edges of your consciousness that can challenge your narrative identity. Whether you call it the psyche, the mind, the psychic apparatus, or the soul, they're synonymous. The narrative identity is the portion of the soul accessed to achieve the most advantageous social presentation. It is the part of the soul that gives us the illusion that we are in control, and by extension, an integral cog within terror management. Having now covered social death and the power of fear, the following chapter will focus on PTSD and its effect on terror management, using the film Kung Fu Panda 2. So, stay tuned.